Well, they rebooted Totally Spies, and you know what that means. Promotional video game material.
Yay!
I'm Mac, and I've got your back. Today on the Jetavision, we're reviewing Totally Spies Cyber Mission, which is, of course, a video game based on the television show, in which you have these three high school students, Sam, Clover, and Alex, who live this double life as secret agents, working for this organization called the World Organization of Human Protection, or WHOOP. And they're dispatched to deal with these wacky criminals and their kooky little schemes with their silly little spy gadgets. We were interested in this game because the show, as I'm sure you're aware, has a very interesting reputation in the animation community. On one hand, it was enjoyed and beloved by many, and I'm sure it holds a lot of nostalgia for those who watched it back in the day. On the other hand, you have these pretty girls in skin-tight catsuits getting into zany situations. As a result of such content, people who watched it when they were young claim that this show has given them some very odd fascinations. And there's this conspiracy that it's a fetish show disguised as a kid's cartoon. Wouldn't surprise us. It is a French show. And by the way, just to nip it in the bud, that sort of content is not in the game we're looking at, so if you're buying it for that reason, you may be disappointed. But enough about that, because this is something that I do not care to discuss. Totally Spies Cyber Mission takes place in Singapore, where the trio now attend a high-end university. Much like the show, it switches back and forth between their civilian lives and their spy missions. The overarching plot is that you have these digital creatures coming out of computers and entering the real world, and we've got to figure out what's going on and who's behind it, and so we go on all these different missions where stuff happens. Now, we here at Jetavision have never actually watched Totally Spies, so unfortunately we can't determine if this game stays true to its source material. Regardless, the graphics are frankly not very good, which actually isn't that big of a problem, at least during gameplay, because the camera is positioned a good distance from the action. See, you can't have bad graphics if you can't see the graphics. That's, not the case for the cutscenes where you actually get to see everything up close. And oh dear. I mean, credit where it's due. It looks like they tried to translate the anime-esque style from the cartoons into the 3D space, but you can really tell that the whole thing was rushed. It just does not look appealing at all. What's especially curious to me is how little 2D artwork and animation is utilized. Sure, it's in there, but you really only see small glimpses of it. They definitely could have went a little further. I mean, you look at the bar at the left, which shows you which spy you're currently controlling. It's using the in-game 3D models. Why? It would look so much better with the classic artwork. There's these sections where the characters conversate, and again, they're using the butt-ugly 3D models. When not only would 2D artwork matching the style of the cartoon look better, it would probably be a lot more expressive as well. I don't get it, man. You're making a game based off of a television show. Surely you'd want to reference its original visuals when you can to show appreciation to what you're adapting. Or at least so we don't have to look at whatever the hell this is. Gameplay-wise, Cyber Mission is a 3D isometric stealth/puzzle game. Surprisingly, there's no direct combat, which we found odd because they do fight in the show, right? Whatever. There's 5 levels on offer with 2 segments each, and 2 difficulties to play them on, normal and difficult. The objective of each level is pretty simple. Make it from point A to point B without being seen. Obviously, there'll be some obstacles along the way, puzzles and all that stuff, but the core gameplay is stealth, sneaking past enemies unseen. Getting caught means you get sent back to a checkpoint and a lower rating when you beat the level, but that's more or less it. It's a very linear game with no opportunity for exploration, save for the occasional off-path to explore in search of collectibles. Because of that, levels are dull and unmemorable. The camera controls are quite awkward because you can't really control it at all. You can move it a smidge, but you're not able to, say, rotate it 360 degrees around the character. The camera is entirely in the hands of the game, and it usually does a good job with it, but it still feels restrictive. And while we're talking about controls, it's not that big of a deal, but you can't use your mouse cursor on the menus, which is odd, and I'm pretty sure the keyboard controls default to AZERTY, which has to be changed in the menus. I mean, AZERTY? Really? There are like 2 countries in the world that use AZERTY. The enemy AI, if you're generous enough to call this AI, is extremely basic. They follow a simple and predictable patrol route, never notice changes in environment, nor do they really gain suspicion when suspicious things happen. It doesn't matter how often a radio spontaneously goes off or how often a spy crosses their sight line, still think nothing of it at the end of the day. They will break off their patrol when you enter their line of sight or make too much noise near them, at which point they'll investigate and chase you you down. Though if you're quick enough, you can evade them. You can also set off distractions to clear a route too. On difficult difficulty, there are more enemies, and they're much more perceptive to their surroundings, and pursue the player more aggressively. This was honestly more preferable to play on, because aside from the challenge, they also move faster. On normal difficulty, you constantly have to wait for guards to move along, making it feel less like you're sneaking past sentries all stealthily, and more so like you're just waiting to progress through a level. But on difficult, it's not an issue. The silly little spy gadgets, which of course are a hallmark of the cartoons, are here as well. Spies are assigned gadgets at the beginning of each level. The player does not choose them. Your arsenal is quite limited. The confetti sticks grenade is a landmine that, once stepped on by an enemy, subdues them, eliminating them as a threat. The pocket-sized fan is a ranged gadget that temporarily blinds enemies, allowing you to sneak past them. The candy dispense shooter can take out cameras, and the hypersonic sneakers let the player move really fast without making noise. The freeze spray can freeze enemies, entirely eliminating them as a threat to the player.
You've won a free trip to Alaska!
Oh, that was very funny, Clover.
You've won a free trip to Alaska!
Clover, you already said that.
You've won a free trip to
What's going on? What's going on? Shut up! Most of the gadgets feel really unintuitive to use as well. With the freeze spray, you have to be positioned in much too specific a spot behind your target, and the confetti sticks grenade can only be placed in specific areas outlined for you by the game. The pocket-sized fan is especially egregious because it always misses moving targets. This is despite the game giving you the prompt to shoot them. Why are you telling me to shoot when doing so just results in a miss? Why not just have the bubble home in on the target? Overall, the gadgets weren't all that fun or interesting to utilize, even when they did work. You don't feel cool for using them, you don't feel like a spy doing spy things with spy gadgets, because they're just really straightforward and limited in the ways you can use them. Which is a shame, you know? It seems like the show has all sorts of silly and strange little gadgets. It would be cool to have a large array to play around and experiment with, but alas, one of the game's gimmicks is that you can switch to different spies on the fly. This is somewhat necessary as spies can use their gadgets in tandem to progress through levels. But other than that, each spy has a unique ability they can use to overcome specific obstacles that can only be cleared with that specific spy. Clover can shoot a laser to open a hole, creating an entrance, Alex can break these random yellow boxes, and Sam can hack open doors and move cars. This whole spy switching mechanic is kind of pointless in regards to single player. The fact that there are 3 characters you can switch to at any point in time really does nothing to improve the gameplay. The only time it's really used is when you have these puzzles where the trio has to work together to pull levers to open doors, allowing for everyone to progress, but that's more or less the extent of it. If those puzzles were removed, they wouldn't be missed. You might as well just have the player control a single spy and then let them have access to all 3 of the gadgets at once. I know that defeats the spirit of the show, being that these girls are supposed to be working together, but if you're not gonna bother doing anything with this character selection mechanic, you might as well just drop it. It is worth noting, you can use this system to totally cheese the stealth. Enemies will ignore spies that aren't being controlled by the player, so if an enemy detects you, you can just switch out and nothing will happen. It honestly becomes a detriment at points. Like I said before, there are obstacles that can only be passed by using a specific character's ability. The problem is, in stealth sections, the other 2 spies don't follow you. They just stand where you left them, meaning you constantly have to retread ground. Like in this level, this car's blocking the way and only Sam can move it. Okay, done. But behind that car are these yellow blocks that need to be destroyed by Alex, so I have to move her up and destroy the blocks. And then up ahead is a door that can only be passed by Clover, so I have to move her all the way up. But oh, what's that over there? A bunch of coins I can collect behind a block that only Alex can destroy. Well, I can't just leave those there, so now I have to move Alex all the way up to destroy the block and collect the coins. And then I switch back to Clover and can get through the door and progress through the level. So basically, you have to walk through this level several times, all so you can get to where you need to go. I guess it's worth noting that there is some replayability. Around the maps, you can find these collectible items, like personal items that belong to the spies, which can be viewed in the display area, or these computer chips. Neither of these do anything, I guess they're just things to look for. More interestingly, you can find blueprints around the maps to unlock abilities, which upon completion of a level can be purchased with this currency called Whoop Coins, which are found around the maps. You have such exciting improvements like increased crouching speed, alerting enemies less quickly, or being quieter. Effects of these upgrades are frankly negligible, and we didn't notice any real change to gameplay. Also, at the end of each mission, you're given a grade based on how well you did in that mission, so if you want, you could replay it for a better score. If you want. We have come across a couple glitches during the course of playing this game. They aren't prevalent, it's not that big of an issue, but it is enough to bring up. In one section, we were unable to bring up the spy wheel, forcing us to reset and reload to an earlier checkpoint. In another, when we reached our target destination, we ended up in the void, which again forced us to reset the segment. Those are the only glitches we've personally seen, but it does call into question the polishedness of the game, if you expected a game that looks like this to be polished in the first place. Guess these are spoilers, so, you know, there's your warning if you're planning to play this game, I guess. The game's ending is honestly quite disappointing. You find this guy named Cyberchak who's causing all this trouble, you beat him up and he gets arrested, and then this happens.
Yeah! I totally know what our next mission will be. Sipping on bubble tea!
Like, that's it. Roll credits. Not a very satisfying sense of closure, if you ask me. I just spent 9 hours of my life playing a children's game, and I don't feel fulfilled. Why do I not feel fulfilled? The game lasts 9 or 10 hours, and it's honestly, as a whole, quite bland, boring, and repetitive. While the occasional puzzle might help break up the monotony, for the most part, you're sneaking past enemies in the same exact way, again and again and again and again. It doesn't matter the level, or the layout, or the obstacles, it all feels the same. Aside from that, a local multiplayer mode is offered, where different players can assume control of the spies. We'd assume it's a much more intuitive way to play the game, considering you don't have to switch back and forth between perspectives. But unfortunately, I wasn't able to test it out because I don't have any friends. So that's Totally Spies Cyber Mission. The best thing I can say about it is that it meets expectations. We expected the quality of a commercially licensed video game, and that's what we got. Jetavision's score for Totally Spies Cyber Mission is a 4 out of 10. We don't recommend purchasing this game, although something tells me that some of you are gonna do so anyways, either because they're fans of the show, or nostalgic for it, or maybe they're just curious, because again, you know, it's based off a show that has a bit of a reputation. If you're gonna get this game, regardless of our review, it should at least be purchased on heavy sale. Now, if you're new here, good evening, sir. Is your name Mac Chista? Yeah. Well, congratulations, sir. You've won a free vacation. What? Sir, you've won a free trip to Alaska.